My name is Terence Soolan and I'm here for Killorglin Archive on the 9th of February in the home of Maureen Pigott, New O'Mahony, who was born in 1933, said Maureen.
Yeah.
And you were born in Mill Road, was it?
In the Mill Road, yes. My dad worked in the Shannon scheme in the old powerhouse across the road from where we lived.
Where the CY is today now.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mam was looking after the house, and she had 5 children, and Dad got sick and he was in hospital in Killarney, and he used to be always asking her how they were supposed to be building the new houses here at the bridge.
Yes.
And he used to ask her when she'd go in how they were going on. So she told him in 1934 they were building them.
So they started the houses in Laune View in 1934.
34
yes.
They were building, and Dad died in November 34. So
you were all young that time, so the family.
He died and left Mam with 5 of us. My hard was 12 years and I was 13 months.
Well, you really.
So all she got that time to look after herself, and the 5 of us was 11 shillings. She got 6 shillings for herself and a shilling each for us until we'd be 14 years, provided we stayed at school. So she kept on in the Mill Road then until 1936, and she moved over here to Laune View. Drumawall it was called that, and the houses, they built 40 houses here, and she was one of the first to move in. They had 20 in the back row and 20 in the front row.
Yes.
You had the 40 altogether. They were made up of blocks. There were 6 in one and 4 in the other, and then 4 and 6,
yes.
And then the same down the front.
Now, at that time, they said that the houses were allocated
to the people in the lanes.
At the lanes, as they call
yes.
it. So
yes.
Daly's Lane would come into mind straight away, wouldn't it?
Yes, the McMahons came here between Daly's Lane and Coffey's Lane.
Basically, it was people with condemned housing and bad housing
yes.
that they got the priority to come over here at the time. So what we have here is a list of the original families that you made out, Maureen, yourself, over the years.
The people that were here first off.
These were the people that came in here in March 1936.
That's right.
That was the official opening of the houses here in 1936.
They moved in, I suppose, different months, different times.
But now, just to put it down, the number 1 of Laune View, and before we start again, Maureen, number 1 is the back left-hand side, nearest the Trilly Road, as we said. That's
right.
Above in that corner, number 1.
Patty and Kit Gallivan, they moved into number 1, and I don't think they had all the family. There was 3 or 4 of them born here in Laune View.
Now, the well-known postman, was that Patty?
That was Patty. I don't know was the postman when he moved here first. Or when I was grown up, it was Patty.
Yes.
That was postman, you know.
So they were the corner house at the back left-hand side.
That's right.
So who was the number 2 then, Maureen?
Paddy Joy the Smith got number 2.
Of course, Paddy would have been the father of Peter Joy, who wrote The White Flower of the Lawn.
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Peter and Seamus and Paddy and Mary.
They were the family, the children.
They were the family.
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Joy was a quiet woman. Paddy had a little forge up there where Owen Mangan has his veterinary place now.
On Upper Bridge Street there at the back, that's right, yeah.
And they started building a house out in the front. They intended to live there.
Was there a gap in the houses in Upper Bridge Street that time?
There was.
Would that have been where Joy's house, where they were going?
Yeah.
Was that it? Yeah.
Where the dry cleaners is now and Pat Joy's. You could go in there into Fairfield.
So that was through Joy's, that's where the Joy's were going.
That's where they started the house. But when I was been delivering the standard for me hall, I used to take the shortcut through there, you know. I used to go to Willie Crowley's house and that.
Well, they said that was a great shortcut for people.
It was missed, and they knew Paddy used to be having the little fire there at the left as you went back out onto the roadway.
Yes.
You know.
So that was Paddy and Mrs. Joy there.
Yes.
So number 3 then.
And number 3
Maureen.
then, you had Willie Donoghue and his mother, whom they called Julie Dennehy. And they lived in a little house inside the wall as you go out the Killorglin Road. There was a wall at the left-hand side, and a little house was in there.
Well, we have a photograph here, haven't we, of
Right.
the actual house here.
Yes, the little house was there. And that little house was condemned then, and Willie and his mother got number 3 up here.
And they lived up here at
They
number
lived
3.
up here. The mother died, and then Willie died in later years, and the house was sold. But he had a brother, Denny Donoghue, in England, and he came home for Willie's funeral. And he sold the house then. It was sold to a sister of Patrick Diles.
Patrick the musician, as we call.
Yes.
Yes.
Patrick the musician. And a sister of his bought it. Now, she didn't come to live in it, to the best of my knowledge, and she sold it on.
So number 4 then.
Number 4 then, there was an old gentleman there. I'm sure he was in the RIC or something.
Yes. But he wasn't stationed here, because the RIC
No.
would have been here since
No,
up to
he came here,
up to 1922.
and
yeah.
he lived in number 4. Very quiet man, never bothered much with anyone, but he used to give us the little cordon pad boxes when we were small,
Yes.
you know, and he'd bring us in and give us a cut of bread and butter with sugar up in it, and that.
That was a considerable big treat.
But but outside of that, he never bothered with anyone.
Is that right? Yeah.
But a nephew then got it when Willie died. I suppose took it over, then the council again. They only had him as council because I was married to Andy before they were able to purchase him.
So William Hannafin died at that point then,
and
the house.
Mrs. Flynn was lodging down here in number 25.
This was out in the front houses here.
Yeah, she lodged with Kitty Sullivan. And Mrs. Flynn and her husband and daughter lodged there.
Yes.
So when Mr. Hannafin died, they got number 4. They moved up there then. Then you had Mrs. Corkery and Dennis living in number 5. She had a big family.
What Corkerys were these now?
These were, do you know that Sean Corkery's father was a brother of Dennis's, but they moved there and he was a tailor. Yes.
You worked from home here?
Yes, he worked from home here, and then he had a couple of sons that carried on the trade, Paddy and Dinny and Timmy. They worked up here in the kitchen with a big table, like, you know.
Yes.
And then they had a couple of sisters in England, and there was one at home for some years, Mary, and she went to England.
Were they related to the Corkerys that were above in Upper Bridge Street, the tailor?
They were. That was Stevie Corkery.
Yeah, so
he was Paddy's brother.
Was he? That was Steve, yeah.
He was a nephew, like, of Dennis.
He operated in Upper Bridge Street, didn't he? And,
yes.
Later on, yes.
He did. He had the tailoring shop there around where Mrs. Finnegan is.
So who's next now? What number are we at next now?
So you're to number 6 then. And that was my mam, Bridget O'Mahony.
Yes.
She moved in, I was 3 years.
Have you any memory of it at all? You were too young, were you, at that time?
No.
For a few years.
There was a photo of me in the front door with a little cocker we had at the time, tiny. Sure, I was only just
You were
small.
tiny yourself?
Yes. But there was me hall bridie, Sheila and Siobhan had begun to school, and she'd have to put them out to school then, and then she'd have to go back to the labour exchange to get her few shillings at the end of the week. So she made the best of things then. She used to take in washing, and she worked for a time. Stevens ran a betting shop where Jeremiah Sheehan's house is now.
In Upper Bridge Street, is that?
Yes.
Yes.
And there was a Miss Halley there. She was from a ways from place, but she was running the betting shop. for some years. So Mum got the job of having a fire and lighting it in the morning for her and having the place clean. And then she'd have to go up in the evening, I suppose, and brush it and do something like that. And her 11 o'clock tea, and that would come up from Stevens's that time. So that went on. While she'd be doing that, then she'd let me in bed, but Mrs. Carcree would be listening out for me in case I'd cry or that. When my Hall was 19 years then, he got a job in what was the old Shannon Scheme place where my dad worked, but it was the Catholic Young Men's Society then. And it was just, I suppose, like a kind of a caretaker too, but he wasn't very long there when he got sick and he got wet pleurisy and he went to death's doors. That time he was anointed and everything. And old Dr. Prindable, I said, let's send her to Dublin now for it. He drew a pint 3/4 of fluid from his lung above in the front room at home. And Mrs. Wade, she was a nurse. She was Cindy Keating's mother. She was with him the night he did it. He asked for her, and she was in the house at the time. And he asked for a glass then to measure it. And Mum had no pint glass, and she had to send out to Mrs. McMahon's to get the loan of a glass. And he measured it anyway in a pint 3/4. She could hear me Hall groaning. So he stood at the door then when he was going away, and he said, your son will live, ma'am, but when he's stronger, he'll have to go to sanatorium to get air pumped back into that lung. So he was shifted to Tree Hospital then, and however long he gave there, she only put him in the train in Tralee for Buttevant in County Cork. There was a sanatorium there then, and he spent some time there.
And how was he after that?
He was great, but in later years, he was gone over the Metley Bridge, the railway bridge, with some of the boys and the cottages, Sonny Dial and Josie Mangan and crowd like that. And his swan fountain pen fell out of his pocket and went down between the slats and the bridge. And he went down, you could go down onto the bank that time, of course, it was a lovely walk. And he rolled up his pants and he started rooting around the water looking for the swan pin, because of course they were scarce at the time, I suppose. Yes. So he got the TB back again then. And while he was in the FCE when he was at home, and they were sent to a fire in Hillville. There was some fire there, but the only water they had was in a concrete tank up on the side of the wall. So they had to climb up, and they were passing buckets of water out of the old tank. And he banged his knee off of the tank, and I thought no more of it. But when he got the TB secondly, he went to Piedmont, and they were treating him for the TB, and he got TB in the knee where he banged it at the fire, and he had the leg in plaster from his thigh down to his toes.
What age was Michal at this stage?
I was about 6. As I say, he was, what do I know, I think 6.
So it would be around 1940, would it 39, 1940 there?
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So into the bargain then, while he had the leg in plaster, he had to go into the Meath Hospital in Dublin and have a kidney removed. So it all went on together. He had the TB in the lungs, I suppose, and he got the TB in the knee, and then he had the kidney removed. But thanks be to God, he had great health after.
TB was very prevalent that time, wasn't it, in the country?
God. I remember Mum saying there was a woman back in Dukes, Mrs. O'Shea, and there were 6 of the family with TB over in Edenburn that time. And 3 of them died. Hannah was married to Mikey Mangan after above in Ardlahas. It was
widespread, wasn't it? It was widespread. I think Noel Brown was a man that came in the 1950s.
He was a marvellous man.
Yes, he did.
Came into just around the time in Michal that time. But when he came home then, and he was around and he was good, but the leg was kind of stiff. And Mrs. McMahon got a lorry load of turf at the time. It was all the lorry loads. And he was going into Mrs. McMahon's and he was trying to climb over the heap of turf and he slipped and broke his leg. But he was very positive thinking then, and they told him that he'd probably always have a lame step from when he had the TB in the knee. But he fixed up his bicycle and he put a fixed pedal in it, the way that the fixed pedal would stay straight for the leg. He sorted it out anyway, and he had no limp or anything because he danced and everything. I was working at Foley's myself for 10 years. Bridie worked in curtains in the hotel for a number of years, and she moved from there to Flasmacrohan's, and she was there.
This is Flasmacrohan's down on top of the...
At the top of the hill,
yes,
where Kingston's has the off-licence now. But before Bridie had left, Thurlock O'Boyle took over. He bought it from the McCrohans, and Bridie was married at the time, and she was expecting her first child. So she had her son up here, and we had her son until he was 5 years, and they went to England. Sheila spent a few years in England and came home. She never kind of liked it, and Siobhan spent some years there. Sheila married Billy O'Shea, the bakery in Milltown then, and Siobhan married an Englishman, Pierce Walker.
Well-known plumber back here for years.
And Mihal married a Killarney girl, and he lived in Killarney. And then in 1960, I married Andy Pigott from Connachtnaboola.
Yes.
And we bought number 21 in the cottages then.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come back to number 21. So your next door neighbour then at number...
At number 7
yes.
was Tig and Molly O'Brien. Tigeen used to be working with Mick McCarthy.
Above the square, is that?
Yes.
Yes.
And I know early in the time that they used to travel around. Mick McCarthy, God rest his soul, he had the maintenance of the schools, the national schools, and when they got holidays, you had to paint them and I suppose clean around them and clean the chutes and different things like that. They used to have to cycle out to the far out schools and that. But Tigeen was a nut job man then around the town for people. He cleaned the chimneys like Derry today now.
Yes.
And he was always working.
And of course he was a big involvement with the graveyard, wasn't he?
Yes. I don't know what year he took over the graveyard, but he must have been in, because I don't know who.
He was caretaking for the graveyard, so what was it?
Oh gosh, he was. And like you had to go to Tigeen for graves and they'd be allotted out to you, and he'd have to keep track of people that died and what they died of and all to this.
And of course today Derry is carrying on that tradition.
His son is carrying on that today,
yes.
And his daughter Hilda keeps track of the people that died and what they died of.
Mickey McCarthy, he was an undertaker too, was he?
He was an undertaker, and he had above in the workshop, he had carpenters working there for him. Yeah. Andy worked there as a carpenter himself, and Timmy Sullivan.
And there was a joinery shop, so more or less was it? They were making
it was an open carpentry shop, and he had the other grocery shop in the square. He did the undertaking as well.
There was a big family of the O'Briens, sir.
Oh, they had. God bless them.
So who was next door then? What number are we at now?
We're at number 8 now, and that was Jack and Nano McMahon.
Yes.
And they came there, very nice people as well. And there was Jimmy and Patty.
And Mike.
And Mike, and Stevie 4, and John 5.
They came down from Daly's Lane, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
They did, and they were there, and they were great workers. Mike worked for Timothy Chubb O'Connor for years here in his yard on the Trilly Road, drawn turf and different things. And then Stevie worked for Joe Shea in the wool
store above Langford Street,
business
yes.
above in Langford Street. John was in England. I didn't know him. And Patty, in latter years, he was a porter in the AIB Bank.
In Laurel Street, yes.
Yes.
And Jimmy then worked in O'Donoghue's.
And Jimmy was a baker.
He was a baker with Sullivan's Bakery, was that?
But he was in Donoghue's
before
first.
that, yes, yeah.
And then he gave years in Sullivan's till he retired.
And of course, Jimmy, he lived above in St. James's Gardens afterwards, yeah.
He married a girl from Ballymackelgad, I think.
Yeah.
And they lived up there and had 2 daughters. And then you had Timmy Mangan and Noni in number 9.
Yes.
And Timmy was originally from around Steel Row, and his wife came from up above the town. Timmy was quiet, and he always had a little donkey and a rail for the turf outside the door. And when he'd come from the bog in the evening, he'd bring the donkey in through the front door and through the kitchen and out the back door, and he used to keep the donkey out.
Yeah, he couldn't go around obviously that time, could he?
No. So in through the house the donkey'd go, and then he'd come out through the house again the following day. There was Brindy and Mary and John and Hannah.
Brindy, of course, was into the fishing, wasn't he? He was a great fisherman, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think Timmy did too much of the fishing. The rest of the brothers did, I'd say, maybe Dinny. But Brindy was always stuck in the fishing.
Yeah. Was Brindy the last in that house?
He was. Noreen died in England then, and of course Brindy died here. John died in England, and Mary and Hannah are still living in England. Yeah. So, in the next house then...
This number 10 out, the last house.
Yes, that was Connie Dial and his wife Mary. And as long as I could remember, Connie was a postman, and Mrs. Dial used to work above in the old Carnegie, caretaker, and she used to take in washing for the Dwyers and different people, and that she was a very tall, thin woman and that. There was Molly and Sonny, and then there was Nuala and John and the young boy Richard. John gave years in England, married in England, then he married a girl from Tinahalla, and they moved back here.
That's Maria.
Yes, and they bought number 3 from Tom Murphy. So they're up there now.
So they're back near the old home again.
Yes, and Nuala married then, and she remained in number 10 with her mother. The father was dead, and she married Richard Morrison. He was in the army. He was from Waterford.
A sergeant in the army.
Yeah. So John went to America, and Richard was working around, and Nuala died there about 3 years ago. Now it mightn't be quite the 3, but her husband is still in the house over, and her brother is in a section of it they built onto the back.
Oh, yes.
Richard. So they're there. Richard has 2 children.
That's the house, so really there's been a connection to all the ways back to the south.
Yes.
That brings us now to the end of the block on the back left-hand side of the 2 blocks there.
Yes, that's the left-hand side, and you're going, there was a division then in between, and at one stage, Timothy Chubb O'Connor used to park his 2 diesel lorries there. He was
Up the middle and the back there, was it?
He was the first ever to bring the diesel lorry around, and they used to park the 2 of them up there. And Mikey Riley used to drive Chubb O'Connor, and then there was Maggie and Patty.
This is number 11 now, on the right-hand side at the back.
On the right-hand side of the back. There was Sheila and Mary, and then Eddie and Mikey and Denny. And Denny lost his sight and he went blind. But he was always walking up and down outside. He'd a pat warden from walking, and he'd walk so far, and he'd know when he was there, and he'd come back. When he'd salute, he'd know everyone's voice, and they'd be all going to him, telling him bits of news that time. And when he'd be passing, then he'd be shouting to, telling him things that he knew. But the mother died, and God help us, Denny only lived a short time after her.
Is that right? Yeah.
The father was dead. Patty, he used to mend shoes like just in the kitchen over, not a very big trade. He used to mend them for Tom Mac that had a shop, a shoe shop
Above the
uptown.
top of the square, yeah.
Yes, and he was very jolly man. He had a dog Rover, and when we were small, he'd be running after us to, by the way, frighten us. But they were very innocent people that time. But Mikey and Denny always stayed at home, and Eddie got the house when Denny was dead. Of course, they were all dead, and Sheila was in England, and Mikey left the house to Eddie, and Eddie sold the house then.
Was it Bonnie that was there with the house then? Was that Bonnie Riley?
It was. It was. Manny was there, and he was there years, and he used to keep hens.
Bonnie was just a nickname,
He
yeah.
went working into the yard in Chub Connors then, and they had a sawmill for cutting the timber and that, and
Yes.
he got his fingers cut
Was that what happened to
in
him?
the
Yes, he had,
sawmill.
yes.
Yes, yeah.
That was number 11 now, wasn't it?
Yes.
So we're into number 12 now.
There were 12, there was
Maureen.
Patty and Lizzie Foley. Patty was a caretaker above in the old technical school in Langford Street.
Yes.
There are, Paul, do you know who the solicitor is there now, and the dentist and that.
Yes, the
was
school
in
is not
there,
the course,
you
but
went.
that's for number years.
Yeah, and they had John Joe and Mary and Pa and Teresa and Thomas, and there was another by then. But the majority of them went to England.
A lot of
and,
immigration, yeah.
They're all dead, I'd say now, all to Thomas. The mother went away to England after the husband died. She died in England, but they brought her remains home. But Patty was always caretaking the tech and the gardens and everything. They used to be lovely, nice gardens in the front that time, and vegetables.
They had
And
It was up a bit on
it
a low
was.
hill.
You had to
Yeah.
go in and up steps
Yeah.
to it, like
There was
it was
a
a
climb
nice
up to-
building
It was lovely
at the
building.
time.
We're on to number 13 now.
Number 13, James and Kitty Mangan. James now was a brother of the man in number 9. He was a brother of Timmy Mangan's from Steel Road 2, and his wife, Kitty, she was him from the Mill Road. She had 2 uncles, were clerks in the church, man used to say. They used to be collecting the money like it was Sunday
Yeah.
and that, and
They were-
Riley's.
I think they were there in the early days of the church, weren't they? They were. That's right. That's right.
That was when they used to stand at the end of the aisle with the box taking the
Is
money.
that right?
Because one day there was a woman and she put in her money, gone up, and that, but when she was up to the seat, I suppose the poor woman had no change, and she put a button into the box. He was Tom Riley. He followed her up to the seat and he said, "You lost your button, ma'am." He gave it back to her again.
And of course, there was music in this house too, wasn't there? With the
Though
Meg?
there was
Yes.
James, he was a great accordion player, and Josie, his son,
Josie took it up then, did he? Yeah.
used to play.
Did Jamesy, did he play music in any dance halls or
No, I
No.
wouldn't say so.
just for his own
To
pleasure?
just for his own amusement, and
Yes.
I don't think that Josie did either.
But they were very musical,
Oh,
weren't
they were great
They were-
players.
they were, yeah.
Yes. There was Josie, and then he had twins and a daughter. He had twins, Michael and Dennis. Dennis is dead now.
And of course, Josie gave a lot of years in England himself, didn't he?
He did.
He went
He
in,
did.
yeah.
A
painting
long
business.
time. James E. Mangan, of course, was a great painter too. He used to be painting the houses for
Yeah.
people and the shops and everything.
He did some sign writing too, did he?
Yes, he
Yes.
did, because he was painting Meg O'Brien's one time, and he was he was there so long. I suppose when he went in, he said to her, "What name did she want put over it?" And she said, "By so and so." She said, "You could nearly put your own now because you were there so long." Meg, of course,
That's what the Kingdom Bar is now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
she was a terror. And then you had Willie and May Foley. Willie was a contractor. He used to be building houses and doing all that type of work. And May was a housewife, which they were at that time.
And of course they had a priest in the house. They had Father Dermot Foley.
They had 2 priests.
Father Lane, yes.
And the old girl, Maureen, was a nun for years. She left the convent then, and she was teaching in Dublin.
And of course they had Christy and Sean over in London.
Yes.
Christy was very involved with the Killorglin Association over there.
He
and raised a lot of money for St. Joseph's.
And he had shops, curtain shops and that.
He was down Shepherd's Bush.
Yes, for selling materials.
I think Christy worked in Crowley's, did he, before he went to England for a while?
He
so
did,
he got his start above in Petty Crowley's.
Drapery shop and that.
And there's Ona then.
And Vera. Both
in Leicester Street?
Yes.
Yeah, so a big family there.
Ona was in America for some years and she married in America. And Margaret was in England for a number of years, but she's back home now too.
It's amazing as we go through all these houses, the amount of people that immigrated and gave time in England and different places.
Yes, yeah. William Dinn and Bridget Buckley.
Number 15 now, yes.
15. I think Mr. Buckley came from away someplace. He wasn't a Kerryman, I think. He was very jolly, roguish kind of a man. They had a very big family too. In hard times, you'd say. There was 23 between Buckleys and Connors, it seems, between the parents and the family.
Well, sir, and they were neighbours, the 2 houses side by side.
Yes. Buckleys were number 15, and you had James and Mary O'Connor then in number 16.
This would be Nora O'Connor.
Yes.
And Timmy O'Connor's but own father now.
Nora's father and mother.
Yes.
And her old sister was a nurse in England, and she got a medal for bravery at the time of the war for saving people and taking them out of the...
This would be a sister of
Nora's.
Of Nora's, what
and
was
then
it?
She had another sister, Sheila. She gave years in England, and she finished up in Belfast.
Yes.
And then Maureen and Hannah were in England. Maureen didn't come home, but Hannah married Ernie Thorpe, and they lodged over here in Denny Clifford's 35 in the right-hand side,
right?
the far over block. They lodged there for a long time, and then they got a house above Nivra Park. Ernie's alive all the time, but Hannah died some years back. They had one daughter, Rosalind. She was a secondary school teacher.
Of course, Ernie was a bricklayer, a great bricklayer in his day
as well.
Did Mary O'Connor live to a great age? My father used to be talking.
93. She was a good age, yes. All right, and that. Ma'am, Bridget O'Mahony of number 6 and Mary O'Connor of number 16 were sisters. They were Gallavins from Grawn, the 2 of them. And James O'Connor came from Sunhill. And then in number 17, you had Nora Maroney. Now, I couldn't explain about her. I didn't know her very well. She just was on her own, a lone woman.
But she wasn't from the locality as such, was she?
No,
you think?
not that I knew.
Yes, yes.
You know. And then after her, there was a Miss Kelleher. Very dainty little woman. I can barely remember her with a coat and hat, you know, kind of real lady.
And of course in some of these houses, Maureen, people wouldn't have been there for long, you know. Some people were only there for a year, so weren't they? Or 2 years, you know.
Yes, although the majority of them...
They were there for the long haul,
they
as
were.
they say, yes.
I mean, for instance, we'd say now, Nora Connor is there all the time.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a share of them. And James was the first baby to be born here when they moved in, when the houses were built.
James Buckley over.
James
he was
Buckley,
the first baby to be born.
The first baby to be born, Laune View.
Is that a record again?
Yeah. Then in number 18, you had Patrick and Bridget Rochford.
Yes.
And I used to hear men saying that the father got killed off of his bicycle.
That was in Milltown that happened.
Was it?
It was a Midtown.
Was one of the places he got gone in to see one of their children that was in the hospital.
That's right. Pa still talks about that. I mean, Pa's in the house, his son today.
Oh, yes.
And he speaks about that. Yeah, his
Yes.
father died when they were very young again.
That's
you know.
right. Man used to say he did. I knew he got killed at the bicycle someplace there.
And of course, they came from Daly's Lane too.
They did.
Pa was saying that he remembers his mother bringing him across the bridge.
Yeah.
You know, even that time. So people have their memories.
But that
That
I
point.
leg it home, I suppose, for a couple of belongings.
Yeah, that's all. That's
Yes, yeah.
all.
But
Bridget lived to a good age too, didn't she? Bridget Ratford.
she did. She did. I mean, Pa married, and his wife and Mrs. Ratford got on very well together, and she was a young girl, but she got on very well with
She did.
Mrs.
Chrissy
Ratford.
took great care of her.
She was really, and they had a big family too, but that they all immigrated. Johnny and Mary and Helen and Margaret and Mickey passed it at home all right, but all the rest of them settled in England.
They took for the boat, as I said that time, yeah.
Mickey, all right, married Margaret Connor from number 16.
Yes, and where did they live after that?
In England.
Oh, they went away after
but
that.
Mickey is dead and Margaret is living in England all the time. Then you had Bill and Hannah Marie Jones in number 19.
Yes.
There was Bernard and Eileen. Eileen gave years in England and she single. She was a lovely girl and she married in after coming back from England years after, and she was living in Milltown. And Bernard spent a long time in the Pretty Polly, I think it was in Killorglin.
Yes.
And he met his wife. They married after in England, and they gave some years in England. Came home then again to number 19. Then you had John and Nora Horgan, and Nan Roach used to stay with him. I don't know where they came from, because Nan Roach was Timmy Mannion's wife's mother, and she had come from above the town. And I know that Maureen Horgan, that was married to Joe Sheehan, was Timmy Mannion's wife's niece. She was Noni Roach. John used to keep the Kerry Blues, the dogs.
Oh, the famous dog,
Yeah.
famous Kerry dog.
And he worked and caretaker for old Dr. Joe Prendeville down here now.
Where Dr. Billy is.
Yes,
corner.
even the grounds and the gardens. And that time, when it would come to the time of the year to cut the grass in the bank, Dr. Joe would get John Horgan to clean off the bank with the side. They'd clean the side, the top of it, and down the side. It was beautiful to go down that way for a walk, and you could go all the way down along to the fisherman's cabin and go around by Joe Griffin's and come up what they used to call Boharin Shoig, out on the Trilly Road, or you had a choice of coming back the track that time and coming down onto the bank again.
There was lovely gardens there one time, was there?
Oh, beautiful. You could see them then. They were sectioned off and you could see them from the bank when you'd been gone down.
Yes.
And they had like different sections with the box hedging, and you'd see them walking around there in the summertime and that, and they might be playing tennis on the front lawn.
And then a breach came in the bank there, isn't it? And it started flooding.
The tides over the year wore a hole in the bank.
So the gardens disappeared after that, did they?
Yes. The tide then flooded in and flooded his land and flooded the gardens and the trees that were there and everything, because there was some different type of trees, fir trees and that. John and Nora Horgan were number 20, and they were at the far off end of the back. And number 21 then came here up from the Trilly roadside.
Yes.
Was number 21 starting off.
So as you're looking at the houses, it's the far left corner of the front houses.
Yes.
Okay.
And Bridget Hart was living in America, and she married in America. And she was expecting her first child And the husband travelled home from America with her because she wanted to have the child in Ireland, and he was going back straight away. Then again he went back in the Titanic, and of course he got drowned.
He went down, Henry Hart, yes.
And Mrs. Hart was on her own then, and she had a son, Henry, and she got number 21 here.
I think they could have been living down that laneway next to where the Shamrock Bar was in Lorber Street.
She was either in that or in Coffee's. Someone at the two.
I think the houses kind of came around, didn't they?
They might have.
They
might have.
But I think the Harts were there, yes. They were
Well, she was there and she got this place then.
So there was a casualty from Killorglin on the Titanic.
There was. Mrs. Hart's husband.
Henry Hart.
And then she was here for a long number of years on her own with the neighbours or whatever they were, the Cahalans coming to her. And then her son, that she came home from America to have, Henry, he married a girl from Steel Row. She was Mick Flynn's sister, Bridie Flynn. She was a sister of the man that got number 4 house after Mick Flynn, Mick and Julia Flynn, but Bridie Hart, Henry's wife, was a sister of Mick Flynn's.
Is that right, yeah?
And Henry used to drive the diesels and that for Timothy Chubb O'Connor and different jobs, I'd say. And he went and came to England, and they lived 24, and they lived there, Bridie and the children, but I'd say Henry spent the most of the time in England. And she eventually went to England and brought the family with her. But Michael, the son, then went to America some years after, and he kind of grew up with the grandmother, Bridgie Hart, here, coming and going to her.
Yes.
And in later years then, he went to America. But she left the house to Michael when she died, and he came home at the time, and he put the house up for sale, and Andy bought the house.
Your husband Andy, Andy Pigott.
350.
When would that have been? What year was that?
That was, he came in to me the big day of Puck, 1958, with the key of the house. He was after getting it that day. It was the dearest the houses went at the time,
yes.
350.
Which was a lot of money, I suppose, Maureen,
Well,
at that
it
time.
was.
It took
And
with the gathering.
there was nothing done to it. It was only the bare house.
Yes, yeah.
Because it was gone into rack and ruin. And Henry did the wiring himself. And, you know, he put it out through the stairs and
So very basic.
With centre and things like that. And he got it in 58, and then we were to get married in June 59, but his mother died the 1st of April 58, and he wouldn't get married until the 12 months were up. So we didn't get married until the 20th of April 1960.
He wanted to let a year go.
But down, he wouldn't marry without the 12 months.
And his mother, of course, they were above Knocknabulla at that
they
time.
They were in Knocknabulla.
Yeah.
And he had 2 other brothers and a sister there that weren't married. Then he had Sister Nellie, gave years and years at Jimmy Leary's in Lord Bridge Street. And then Molly, she worked for different people around the town, you know. And there was Timmy Reardon's wife then.
You only made the move, so from the back row to the front row, is it?
Yeah, I came from number 6 to number 21.
And I suppose you were one of the few that did that, really, when you got married, that you actually went down to and moved into another house, when you think of it.
Yeah. And Andy was doing it up then, that time, like he started doing it up, and he built the first shed there. And then I remember he was the first one to make a back entrance. He made the back entrance the way I could go up and down to home.
Wasn't it handy? That was the reason, was it?
Yes. And then down the years, then they are made back entrances because it was handy to get into the back of the house.
Oh, sure, of course it was, yeah. And of course, you have a lovely view from the front of the house here, Maureen.
You have.
You have a great view of the river, of course.
The rivers and the town. You can see.
It's a gorgeous setting here.
It is, mind you, very nice, all right. So that was Bridgie Hart then. You had Marcy and Mrs. Mangan then in number 22.
Right.
I don't know who Marcy was, but his wife was an aunt of the Sullivans. You know, Jim Sullivan, that's some name for him. And Teddy behind the tower.
The Pokines, is that?
Pokines, yeah. Marcy Mangan's wife was the sister of Mrs. Pokine Sullivan. I don't know who Marcy was, but man used to say he was in the plays that they used to have that time.
Oh, the dramas, up in the old Caddy.
Yeah, and he worked in Stevens's yard for years. And then Mrs. Massey, his wife, Mrs. Massey, there's Connor, she was kind of wingy, and she went off. The old girl, Mary, went to America, and they buried her daughter, Joni, and then down the line, she upped and went to America with the remainder of the family. She left Patty and Kevin with the father for a bit, but she took them over some years after, and Massey was here till he died, and it was the Pokines had the scene to the house and that.
Yes. This is where Patrick, Tibby Chubb's son now, Patrick, is living.
Yes, Patrick Chubb and his wife were there then, but they moved in here then. Elsie and Connie Hogan then, 23. They were a brother and sister.
Yeah.
And Connie was a porter for years in the Lord Bank. He worked there. She was Elsie Scully. She married, and the husband was Scully. And she had one daughter, Susie Scully. But I don't know where Elsie's husband was from. There was another brother of theirs in England, Mick, and there was a sister, Noni, in England. They came home on holidays, but they died in England. And Elsie and Connie died here. Connie used to be with Connie Flynn, at the Bog Road. They were great friends always.
Yes.
Elsie reared Pat Dundee. He'd have been her sister's son from Tralee. The mother died and that. So Elsie reared him.
Pat lived here for a few years.
Pat lived in number 23 for years. He was confirmed and everything there.
Was he from 23?
He was confirmed with me, and that he lived out here.
Of course, he was a great personality in the town, great character, wasn't he? He worked in the cinema for years.
He was. Then there was a Miss Shukru came first to, as I say, outside to Kelleher's. I don't know, she was a lone lady. And then after that, Mikey Joe Kelleher and the wife came there. Mikey Joe used to work in Stevens' yard.
They moved in there after.
They did,
yes.
And they gave years there until they went off to America with their family, and Mikey Joe's mother and father took it over.
Did they? So it was so much immigration out of here, wasn't there? Even?
God, you couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
And then in number 25, then Kitty Sullivan. She was an old woman. She must have been from around.
Who came after Kitty O'Sullivan in that house?
Mrs. Harman and Bertie.
So Bertie and Mary came into number 25 then, after Kitty O'Sullivan, is it?
Yes, they were lodging with Mrs. Tam Riley at number 26.
Next door.
They had a room there from her, and I suppose they had 3 children at the time. But that's where they lodged with Mrs. Tam Riley, and she was a sister of Kevin Sheehan's mother.
Oh yes, Kevin, who just lived out the front here to the right, the houses are nonsense, yes.
Yeah, Mrs. Riley was, and she was very, very ladylike, that whether she travelled in her early days or not, I don't know, but she was very kind of picked up like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, Bertie came from Kellan first, and Mary was from the Reardons of Ivra Road that time, wasn't it? That's it.
Yeah.
So that was 25.
And then, Mrs. Tam Riley, I said that. 26 was Mrs. Tam Riley. in number 27 you had Teddy and Mrs. Roberts. They were there for some length of time. Oh, Teddy built the place behind across the river. Mrs. Roberts' husband, he built that.
Going up the new line, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Teddy built that, and they moved there.
Yes,
and then Jimmy Reardon, you know, he was a chauffeur for Stevens, and he was married to a Killorglin girl, and they were living there after Teddy and Mrs. Roberts. Number 28 then, we used to call him, I don't know what his name was, but we used to call him Small Jai.
That was a nickname, of course.
Yeah, he had a big grey beard, and he used to wear a little raincoat and his boots open. The two boots would be always open, a hat on his head. But next door to him then was Jono and Nellie Jai, and Small was Jono's father. And when Small died, there was a Michael Clifford from Calnifercy and the wife that came home from America. They moved in there to number 28. And they went back to America years after, and Patty Russell bought it.
Oh, Patty Russell, of course. He was in the railway, Patty.
Yes,
yeah.
Patty bought that then. And John and Nellie Jai were in the next place. That was Nellie McKenna, George McKenna's sister, and Morris's, and James. She was from Steel Row. They were there, and she had her family there.
There was quite a few from Steel Row came in here, wasn't there?
There was.
When you look at this now.
Some years after, I don't know how she moved out. Jana was in England, and they said that he used to write half the times, and then she used to write to him. And one time he wrote to her, and down at the back of the letter, if not here, try Cara Lake Hotel. That, by the way, it was so hard to get her.
Yeah.
Then in number 30, you had Tim Chubb and Mrs. O'Connor.
Now, this is the last house at the other end of the block here, yeah?
That'd be number 30.
And did they go in at the start as well now?
Yeah, well, I have them down for the start, and I never knew of anyone else being there. I've never heard of it, only them.
And of course, Chubb went on to be a TD for Fianna Fáil for the 40 years, for 20 years.
Yes, he was a Fianna Fáil TD. He was a great man for the town.
He was indeed.
And then he built a house of his own in Seven Oaks in the Tralee Road.
Across from his business.
That's right.
Number 31 now, is
31, yes.
So we're on the first house now, as you're looking in.
On the right-hand side, on the Killorglin Road side. And that was Morris and Sheila Sheehan. And like that, Morris came from Tinahalla, and Sheila, she was Sheila Conway. She'd be a sister of Timmy and Tommy Conways. And there was Molly that used to work for Daisy Taylor. She married Conroy, the blacksmith.
Morris worked in the buildings, didn't he?
John, Morris and John.
Oh, that was his brother, wasn't it?
They worked together. And
That's right.
Tim worked above for Sheehan's. He was carpentry, making furniture.
Yeah.
He stayed on with Champs then.
So we're at number 32 now, Maureen, and that was Paddy and Mrs. O'Carroll.
Mrs. Carroll.
Okay.
And there, that was Johnny and Patty and Sarah's father and mother. And there was another boy in America too. It was Johnny was mostly here, and Patty used to be plumbing round and that.
And Shinner Carroll in.
And Shinner was another son.
Now he lived over here too in his day, didn't he?
Yeah, Shinner bought John O'Jai Nelly's house, number 29, I'm after.
So he lived there, yes, because they lived here for a good number of years too, didn't they?
Oh, God, they did.
They did, of course,
They had the family there, Padraig, and then they had twin daughters. And they were very small when they were born. They had to take turns to stay up with them because they were inside in 2 shoe boxes.
But
Yeah, and up on top of the range they used to be because Siobhan spent the night and Mam, the neighbours, had to stay up with him. You had John Dalton then in number 33. They'd be brothers of Timmy's. They worked on the railway.
yeah.
And then Timmy and his wife came there after they'd gone away. But Timmy and the wife were there for some years. Timmy was a shoemaker too. I think he used to work for Max. Do you know,
Above in the square,
yes.
Tom Max place.
And then they had one son, and he married there and stayed on there after they died. And then he went back to Cara Lake.
There's still daughters back there today, sure? They're still back there?
Yes, I don't know whether Timmy's wife might have come from Cara Lake, you see. So the son is living in Cara Lake now, and then he sold the house and Marion Madden bought it.
A very good history here.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah,
So-
Marion Madden is there. She bought that then from the Daltons that they went down the line.
Yeah.
You had Mikey and Mrs. Dial then in number 34, and they had two in family, Nora Mary and Dennis.
Yes.
Nora Mary married Mick Griffin then. He was a fisherman from Steelrow.
Yeah.
And they lived in number 34. They reared their family there, but they got a house above in Ivra Park.
Number 1 Ivra Park.
Yeah. And they moved up to Ivra Park. And Dennis got number 34 here. But after some few years, he decided he'd sell it, and he sold the house over, and Mrs. Foley bought it.
The bridge there.
She did some few alterations, and she was there until
she
they
passed
sold
away,
it after she died. In number 35 then you had Denny and Mrs. Clifford. Denny was a postman then, a heavy man. He had a little shop above across from Crowley's, and he used to do shoe repairs in the evening after the post.
Who came in after them into that house, do you remember?
You had Hannah and Ernie Tharp there for a long time.
Oh, you were saying that, you mentioned that now, yeah.
Tamarati by then.
Well, it was Tamarati's wife. Well, Tamarati the painter was there,
Yes.
They were down the line.
That's number 35.
Yes.
So now we're into number 36.
Yeah. And that was Ramy and Mrs. Fitzgerald. They lived there. And I know Eileen Connor, Nora's sister, looked after the family for years. She worked there for them until she went to England. I'd say she reared them.
And of course in latter years Johnny lived there, their son.
Yes.
He lived in the family home.
Yes, Johnny carried on then after they dying and dispersing. There's Maggie and Sheila in England and the other boys, and Charlie and after that.
George.
But Johnny was there then, and Johnny died, and Margaret and Sheila, they came home, and Sheila's husband did up all the house and put a bathroom and everything into it, so they come and go from England now very often to it.
Because a lot of houses have been changed and done up, and there's people coming and going.
Oh yes, yeah. Then you had Mick and Sheila O'Neill.
Number 37.
Yeah, that was Mick that moved up to the square.
But Dennis Neil's father, is that? On the left-hand side of the square, is it?
Dennis and Paddy and Sheila's father and mother, they moved up there.
And they bought above the square, did they?
Yes. Is it the photographic shop that's there now, is it, I think?
It's along there, I'd say,
Yes. You had Nell Johnson then.
Number 38.
She was a number 38. She was an aunt of Deborah's and Charlie Johnson's from Doongeel, but she was deaf. And she used to cycle to Doongeel every day. And she was there until she passed away.
She was there from the very start as well, was she?
Yes.
And who came in after her, do you remember?
When Nell died, Stevie Foley and his wife lived there. Stevie used to, to take the medical sets and that for the social welfare. He worked on that. And his wife was Neil from Connecticut. She was a sister of Jack Neil's.
And did these houses go back to the council afterwards? They were only some of them.
No, after Andy and I getting married, some number of years after they left purchase them.
Yes, purchase scheme, yeah.
But we purchased them cheap at the time. They didn't cost much with what we were paying in the rent. And considering when they were built, they were good houses. I know they didn't have bathrooms or anything,
Oh,
but
but sure, what house had that time, you know,
Exactly.
you're talking 1936.
in number 39, then you had a Miss Mangan. She was older. She had been John Mangan's aunt, John the Insurance.
Oh yes, John now that lived in the Bellicassan Road
Yes,
there, across from the church.
she'd have been a grandaunt of Francis Mangan's.
Yes.
And she was there until she died. And Kathleen Clifford, that Miss O'Doherty's, bought it then.
Was that McKinnis house, is that?
Yes, but Kathleen never married. She was working all the years for Miss O'Doherty, the teacher.
Oh yes, above in the school
Yes,
road,
and she
yes.
used to be always at dances with Mary Clifford and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But when Kathleen bought it, Mrs. McKinnon moved up with the family, and she was there with Kathleen.
All right, she was living with them.
Yeah, so Kathleen died and Mrs. McKinnon stayed on there, and one of her boys were killed when I come
Donald,
from
Lord of Mercy,
Trinity,
yeah.
and then the other boy married Patty Russell's daughter, and Johnny is a mechanic, and he's in the house
he's
now.
in the home place, yeah.
Yeah. Then you had
did marry one of the Mangans at the shop.
That's right, Jerry, yeah.
Jerry McKinnon.
you had Dan and Cindy Keating then, and that was in number 40.
The last house on the right
The
and the
last
front.
house next to Evans's across the wall.
Up against the boundary wall there at the end.
Dan and Cindy Keating were there, and they had one daughter, Maureen. She married Ty Connor, the teacher.
The national
He was
school
from
teacher.
Dingley, and he taught in the national school. And then Cindy and Dan died, and Maureen died, and Ty was there, and his own, until he died too. And then Mrs. Leary from Coolburn or Cornwall over, she bought Tom Leary's wife.
And of course she would have been related to the Larrys of Lorbury Street,
She
wasn't
was too.
Yeah,
Jimmy Leary and their father were
yeah.
brothers.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And another connection there, I think, is that Dan Keating was related to Con Keating, who went off Bellicassan. Well, of course, Con was behind from Brenard.
Has to be like
Yeah.
Brenard side.
But they said they were cousins.
I'd
You know,
imagine.
that I heard that they were cousins.
Yeah. Dan was great for the Irish.
Was he a musician as well? Was he a man for music as
He
well?
was.
Yeah.
He
I heard
was,
that.
because I remember one time that they had a biddy night above in our house, and it was Dan played for them. During those time, the biddy nights, when they'd go around with the biddy, and I'd know it was Siobhan and I suppose me Holland and a handful of around went with the biddy, but 'twas Dan played that anyway. He was a great, but he was marvellous for the Irish too.
Very good. Patrick, Maureen's son is here as well. You have good memories of growing up here as
I have,
with Patrick.
in the earlier years, I suppose, go back. I was born in 61, so I suppose maybe give me to 1970 before I did most of the remembering anyway.
Yeah.
You know the old characters,
Mhm.
Patty Pincher, the postman, or
Yes.
Patty Gallivan was across the road from us.
Up the back here, yeah.
He'd
Yeah.
come, I'd be only small inside the gate, and the gate used to be locked,
Uh-huh.
so he couldn't go out. But he'd put in his hand to shake hands to you, and he'd pinch you.
He was noted for it, wasn't
All was top. And
Yeah.
then straight where Marie died, he now was an old man, Willie Donohoe.
Mhm.
And Willie used to come.
Well, he was as quiet as
Yeah.
could
Willie
be.
was, the only time we'd see Willie is he used to go out gathering tyres. He was burning the tyres
Yeah.
for firing.
Like
Oh, yeah.
like Bill Joe and
And
sure.
if we went into the house, the walls and the chimney breast and all were the same colour. That
What's
was
Well,
black.
he never did anything to Missy. He never painted
Didn't
him
he?
or anything
No,
from the
no.
first
And
day
he
he
was
went
burning
in.
outside the fire grate.
Good.
He'd never put him into the fire grate, he'd stack him up outside and burn away.
Yeah,
And
that
then
helped.
you
But
had
you wouldn't know he was there. He
Well,
was
that's
so
so quiet,
quiet
just,
and
you know,
genteel.
Penny
But-
Cockery, the tailor. I remember him when I was going to my grandmother's house. He used to be sitting up on the table inside the
Yeah.
window.
There's been three of them that
Walking
and
with
there'd
the
been
light.
two of them sitting on the table and one of them with the machine. And then Dinnishin had been in the small room at the same time doing his own bit.
Wasn't it great to see it? You could see them and walk,
Yeah.
you could see them
There
outside.
was Paddy and Dinny and Timmy doing it.
Yeah.
And I'd say Jim used to do it in America.
So they all carried on with it.
Jim married, of course, Nancy Sheehan from the Mill Road.
James
She'd
up
have
there.
been a sister of Kitty Jamesy Mangan's wife and an aunt of Josie Mangan's.
Now there's an event also talked about here is the Travellers' Wedding that took place at Pop Fair.
There, yeah.
I think that was 1948. that there was a traveller's wedding out here at the front.
They were coming there for years and years.
All the caravans used to...
They was come up the two sides. They was put up two on either side.
Yeah.
And that's about all that it fit. They might have a single car as well. And that, because even when I was at Foley's, they used to come up the side of the cottages. Mum used to get Michael, God rest his soul, at Puck to come home with me because they'd have the horses around and they'd be back and tails to heads and everything, and you'd be frightened to go through. And they'd be debating and looking at him and opening their mouth, looking at their teeth night and day was all the same to them. And then the Tinker's wedding here then, that was a great affair because the people at the cottages gave them the stuff, the tablecloths and wire and stuff to lay the tables, and Mrs. Ratchford and Nan on them, I think, went down for a drink after. But it was a very posh affair.
Was it? Really?
It was. You'd be surprised that they didn't take more photographs of it. But
there are some photos of it that are in existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that they're all right, you know.
But they were a nice crowd, the travelling crowd that time.
They were.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was ever much trouble, really.
No.
Their line of caravans, maybe 30, 40, the built-up caravans.
They'd go out
all
along that time as far as John Evans's.
Mm-hmm.
A few years, they went the Tralee Road as far as Kevin Sheehan's.
Mm-hmm.
That'll tell you the cars that were there at that time.
That's right, it was a lot quieter, you know.
But you'd have to be careful passing because you could get a pan of water, like they'd be throwing it out, or maybe the teapot, a tea leaf sort of thing. You'd have to be careful, no passing. But they wouldn't interfere with you, and that. I remember they was coming to Foley's behind that time, they'd be buying the medals and the holy pictures without the frames to sell them again. You might have to write a letter for them to someone or to read a letter for them. Do you know? But they were really poor that time, the majority of them.
Now, when you all came in here, of course, at the start, Maureen, there was no electricity in the houses, obviously, in 1936.
Oh, no. We had no electricity when we were going to school or anything.
No, sure it wasn't there. It was only, it was only the powerhouse.
And I'd say that Siobhan must have been about 12 years and that I'd be about 9 myself, and we used to be frightened of Mihal because Mihal was very sensible at the time, and he might go to town for a walk and that he'd come home, and of course we'd be supposed to be in bed. He used to whistle that time lovely, and we'd hear the whistle and we'd make a run for the stairs. But there was a step in our stairs, and when we'd step in it would creak, and we used to try to miss it when we'd run. We'd lie down on the stairs then because there was no light. And of course when we'd go to move the stairs it'd creak, and he'd say, "I swear to God, ma'am, that them two only ran to bed now." No light, no electricity at that time. Sure, that was a great boon. And people could only have it in the bare place that they wanted it first, like we said, the kitchen, and I remember I was at the kitchen and the bedroom or something, Ma'am had it first. By degrees, then they kind of got it in the other parts of the house.
It was coming in, wasn't it, bit by bit? Now, finally, I want to ask you, Maureen, is about the place name over here itself. Was it called Ballano, kind of informally, or was that...
Dromawalla, I'd say, when they came first.
They call it Dromawalla?
Because this area was Dromawalla, the graveyard and Evans's and everything. And then Ballano, then they had it for a time, I suppose, after they moving in.
But it was only a pet name, really, was it?
Yes,
I mean,
and it was...
Newtown.
Newtown, yes.
It was Laune Terrace and Laune View then. They kind of stuck to Laune View, but still in all, if we got a letter now from the councillor, different places at times, it would be Dromawalla cottages all the time.
Really, all the time,
Yeah.
And where did St. Mary's come from then? Was it called St. Mary's?
It was St. Mary's, the church that did that one time. It was St. Mary's from the church point of view.
And how did they put a name in it?
I don't know, when we'd be given in the envelopes, and then that time, St. Mary's we used to have to put down.
Really? Wasn't that unusual?
Yeah, I don't know.
I never knew St. Mary's, like we're saying, growing up was never St. Mary's.
Yeah, what did you know as Patrick?
Laune View.
Laune
Terrace.
Laune
Actually,
Terrace
the
and
early
Laune
days.
View.
Laune Terrace.
If I was at school, but did it change to Laune View, and I suppose in the 70s probably, and it never changed back.
One time they put a small little thing onto John Sheehan's wall, but you couldn't see it.
You're talking about a name coming to the
Yes.
estate itself, yes.
For the
Yes,
terrace of
of course,
houses and
yes.
the estate,
Mhm.
just to put a little plaque and Laune View.
Oh, absolutely.
So before I go myself, because I said my mum was one of the first to move in here.
The estate here is 81 years this year, isn't it?
I think it
Yes.
was one of the first estates in the county.
One of the
George-
first estate, one of the first council estates we built.
I think so,
Yeah.
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 I heard that somewhere that was in...
Yes. Bench and all of Manivra Park have the names. That time they were too poor here to think of
Now, yeah,
anything
those
like
things
that.
were well down the list.
And
of-
it was the
yeah.
least of their
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
They were so glad
It
to
was,
get
yeah.
the house.
My grandfather worked in these houses
Yeah.
and he did the stairs. I was saying that to you, Maureen.
Yeah.
And my father was here as, he was with my grandfather at that time as an apprentice, but they
Yes.
did the stairs here.
Yes.
But he said one of the things that they were saying to him when the house were being built that time is that the tile roof, that the tiles wouldn't stand the roof. You
Yeah.
know, they said they wouldn't last a year.
Yeah.
And as you saw, was after the storm,
Yeah.
60 years, 65 something, he's
Yeah.
still waiting for the first tile to come off the
Yes,
roof.
yeah.
They lasted
were
well.
great houses for the time they were built.
They were. They were concrete walls, weren't they?
They were.
They're
Oh,
old like now, is it?
Yeah.
I mean,
mass concrete.
Mass concrete on the walls,
Well,
which
we
was the
go
thing.
back to when they were built, sure, they were state of the art, I suppose.
Oh, they were, yeah.
Yes,
They were, yeah.
You know, compared to what was there, sure, I mean, I suppose.
Mike McMahon used to say he worked in them when they were building them.
Mike worked at them as well,
Yeah.
he did indeed,
Yeah.
yeah. He used to be talking to my father about them, reminiscing
That
about the
right.
houses over here.
Yes.
Well, the three oldest residents here now, Maureen, would be yourself, Nora and Pa, I suppose.
Yeah,
at
and
this-
Patty Gallivan's and Peggy and Brian's, I'd
Yes.
say, and the Carpries.
Yeah, but one of the people actually still living inside here.
Yes.
I mean, you're here since the very start of it,
Yeah.
which is a great record,
Yes.
really.
Well, from 3 years, as I say, I was 3 years coming here.
Well, you'll have to give me wonderful information, and I think it's great that you went to the trouble of listing all these people that were here already.
It was, and yeah, it was back some years, it was for my own thing that I wrote them out into an old copybook.
It was a very important thing to do, Maureen.
Yes, it-
You know, you're thinking ahead to have a
Yes.
list like that.
It is really, when you come to think of it.
Well, Maureen, archives are nothing without people contributing and
Yes.
sitting down and giving their
Yes,
time
yes,
to doing
yeah.
these things.
Yes,
That's what makes the history, really, at
it
the end
is,
of the
I
day.
suppose.
Yeah.